Today on Piggy Power, I'm going to show you how to upgrade your master cylinder for your braking system. This guide will apply specifically to 306s, anything that takes a 306 master cylinder. So the biggest one you're going to get stock is the late phase 3 or GTI 6 one, which is 23mm centre bore. Inside the cylinders, it's sort of measured inside, 23mm, and basically if you upgrade your brakes to something bigger, i.e. bigger than the calipers on a GTI 6, a little bit like mine are, then these are a little bit bigger, as you can just see. And if you've seen other videos on YouTube of me doing these brakes, then you'll know they are bigger. So what you experience is a very long brake pedal. So the brake pedal is very long until you feel that bite, which you really like. Now, replacing your master cylinder with a bigger one, which is what I'm going to show you today, does not fix braking problems. So if you've got standard brakes and you've got a long brake pedal, it's likely you've actually got a fault with your system. It could be many reasons. Likely reasons are air in the system, or the brakes aren't bedded in or adjusted correctly, but that's for another video. I will now show you the replacement one, which is from a Transporter T4, and the other parts you might need to do this job. The Transporter T4 one is 25.4mm inside and is pretty much a direct fit, which is ideal. The first part you're also going to need is this, which is your larger master cylinder. It comes off a Transporter T4 ABS model, and I will put the part number down the bottom for you. So there it is. You might just notice immediately the distinct difference between the 306 one or 205 106 and this one is that the outlets are on the left and the 306 ones are on the other side. So we'll come to that in a second. Otherwise, it's actually pretty inexpensive upgrade. It's £28.50 for this I got brand new, which is pretty awesome, and I spent about £2 on some unions I didn't have. Speaking of, so I've made up these two brake lines. They're about 150 millimeters in length, 150mm, 6 inches, 7 inches, and then we've got female unions, 2 of them. This is 3/16 pipe, and the unions are M10 by 1. It's quite a common sort of size. And this side, the male side, those are M12 by 1, and they obviously are for this bit. And the idea is we're going to join the two up together, your brake lines on your 306, 205, 106, and join them up with this one. You could use your old reservoir. I had one spare, which is quite handy, so you might want to try and get one from the wreckers, just so that you have one ready, built up, ready to go, so you can just bolt the thing on, rather than having to drain your old one out, take it off, put it on your new one. You could do that as well, so you can just use your old 306 reservoir on the Transporter brake master cylinder. And then I've got a couple of split pins, pretty long ones, to hold it through the hole there onto the master cylinder. So I'll just show you where they go in a second. I just recommend some brake cleaner or similar in a rag, and of course you're going to need some brake fluid, because you're going to need to bleed your whole system out, basically. Argue over whether that's a good brake fluid or not. First thing we need to do is kind of empty this reservoir. I mean, it's not difficult, just unplug our level. Now, there's a couple of ways you could do this. If you had a nice little vacuum pump, you could just flick the little filter out there and suck it all out. You're still going to get some dribbling in there. You could use some rag, try and soak it out. You could suck it out with a straw. That's not a recommended method I use. And the other way is just to basically break off a couple of brake nipples to bleed out the brake system. So that's what I'm going to do. Just got the brakes just bleeding into a bottle, or emptying I should say, into my bleed bottle, which is my little custom setup with a little one-way valve and an old tub basically. So we just undone the bleed nipple on the front caliper, and we'll just let that dribble through while we go and work on the replacement one. Now you've got to do one or two things here. You either need to now remove your brake fluid reservoir, now it's drained, so you can fit it to the new brake master cylinder, or if you've already got one that you've got off a wreckers or for a spare, then let's just move on to fitting that now. All you've got to do to remove these reservoirs is there's a little clip underneath that you just unclip, pull it out, comes out through 2 little feet that sit down goes through the hole, and you just wheel this off, pull it off. Beware, you want lots of rags underneath or something to catch any residual brake fluid if you're bothered. That brake fluid ruining all your paintwork, which some people are. So you got your reservoir, either you've got it off your current car or you've got it spare. I'll just pop that aside for a second, we won't need that at the moment, so we will need to modify it though. And then we've got these two brake lines made up, 150mm length, M12 by 1 male end, one end, and then the female end is M10 by 1, 3/16 line. There's a little pin in the centre of this. You can just see that probably held on the T4 reservoir, which is not suitable for ours, so we'll just pull that out, don't need that anymore, and we'll put a split thread in through that hole to hold the reservoir on top. Keep all your bungs in till the last moment, keep it nice and clean. So I'm going to pull one bung out and just finger tight put in the M12, well actually it can be tightened up by 1. There we go, M12 by 1. Hopefully made a nice seal in there. And immediately you're going to see the problem compared to the 306. So, by the way, this has a little seal that will come with it on the end. Just put that aside and leave the little rubber boot on the end, which will just protect that as well for now. So this sits on the car like this. Now the 306 outlets are on this side. Simple enough. Here is our problem. So what we're going to need to do is bend our brake pipe. Bend our brake pipe. That's what we need to do. Around and under. There. So we're going to bend it round and under to about here somewhere. You could use a proper brake bender, which some people have. I can't find mine. The alternative is to use something like a wooden pole to bend it around. Simple. Because you just don't want it to kink basically too much around here, so you can't undo it very well. So we'll just bend one round, put the other one on, bend the other round. Now obviously the smaller the diameter of the pole you use, or whatever, the tighter the bend will become. You obviously don't want to kink your brake pipe. So there's one. So let's hope that's somewhere near where it needs to be. If I'm honest, looking at it now, I would probably recommend maybe 175mm in length for your brake pipes. Right, and then you should have something, sorry if that was out of camera then, you should have something that looks like this, basically. Boom. Right. The next issue is, basically, once this is on here, like that, it's going to interfere with our brake pipes. So let's try and fit this now. So let's just slide our brake reservoir onto our brake master cylinder. She just pushes on like that. Right. Now, if you have a close look in here, you'll see that whilst the rear is seated nicely, under here it's fouling. So it doesn't deserve a red card, but it's going to need warming up in this area here to be able to get it to seat properly. It'll seat at the back alright. So the way to deal with that, marker pen, and we're going to need to warm up that area like that, right to the back of that hump there. So let's put that off. Put the covers back on. Now, brake fluid is quite flammable, so do make sure you've got as much flammable liquids out of the way as possible. I'm wondering even if we can just block up these channels. just to make sure that no fluid escapes. I should have done that earlier. So what we're going to do is warm this area up with a heat gun. Don't warm it too much, obviously, because it'll melt a big hole. Once warm enough, push in. And what you want to do is, when you're heating it and bending it, is get some weight on it to change the shape, and then blow on it to cool it to quickly keep it in that shape. I'm using the end of a screwdriver because it's likely that it's too hot for your fingers to bear. Okay, let's retest the fit. Almost there. Get a marker. There's a particular area, so that's just fouling on still, so just going to mark that zone again. You'll notice when the plastic's warm enough, because it'll go from a matte finish to a glossier finish. Right, now we're talking. There we go. So I've gone through my split pins. I found a much finer one, for the main reason that whilst this reservoir fits straight on, if you can see, the little hole isn't fully exposed, even with the reservoir all the way down in position. It's good that it's tight, you don't want it really loose, to be honest. And there it is through the other side. So what I'm going to do there, I'm just going to ensure the split pin splays out. So split pins in, through, holding the reservoir in place, and there we have our bigger 25.4mm reservoir and master cylinder all ready to go. And if you look down the barrel of it, you can see the two fixing points, which are 13mm headed nuts on two studs, are still sort of available through the brake line. You want to put the brake line across that because you'll be bending it out the way to bolt it in. So let's go to the car. Don't forget your little seal, which we'll put on now so that we aren't burning it or getting it damaged. Go down to the car with this and switch them over. Boom. Now our brake reservoir is pretty much empty, so this is at the stage we're going sort of backwards to forwards, but if you need to use your brake reservoir off your current 306, this is the point you can unclip it, pull it off, ready to use on your new one. The other thing to do, if this is not the one you need to use and you've got yours already built up as you've just seen, is to just slacken these two brake unions. They're 11mm. A brake spanner is quite useful at this point. It wraps around a bit further. There we go. And they're likely to be tight because they probably haven't been come undone before. Now, I'm going to get some rag underneath. Preparation. It's likely you won't have so many pipes and stuff kicking around like I do. So to be honest, this is the easy bit now. You've done the hard bit, you've modified, and you've made your new brake lines. So this is okay. This is the easy bit now. Just a couple of bolts away from putting brake fluid in your car, bleeding your brakes, and being on your way. Promise. I promise. And although you might be watching this thinking this is taking him a long time, it always takes longer to show someone to do it than to do it. So don't worry, you can do it. It's a pretty simple modification, this. If you're not sure, obviously don't try it. Buy the parts and go to someone that knows what they're doing. Right, once you've done that, just unclip your brake line gently and pull it away. you need to pull it out and away at the same time. Go. Boom. 13mm socket. Onto the two nuts that sit holding brake master cylinder onto the servo here. Your finger over the ports to try and stop them dripping everywhere. There's a bit of a mess in there. So I'm just going to get a rag and clean that out. You don't want any of that stuff in your servo. There's obviously been some brake fluid brake fluid dropped before. So quickly go and get a clean bit of cloth and do that. Okay, so the brake line's just bent out of the way, one for easy access and two to show you easier. We've cleaned off down there, brake cleaner, made sure there's a nice clean lip around there for the new rubber seal to seal on. Because that will affect how the servo works. So there's a rubber seal on there and that needs to seal around there. It's time to take that protective boot off. So it should look like that. Boot's off. It's going to slide straight on. Like that. Get our two nuts. Start by hand so you don't ruin them. You should be able to feel how tight they need to be, by the fact of how tight they were to come off. I'm only using a small ratchet here, not using a gun or anything. I'm not going to use a torque wrench just for this, just tight. There we go. Okay, so next step obviously is to connect our brake lines with our old brake lines. Okay, and with the magic of editing and time, I've gone and made two new ones of these that come around 15mm longer, so I'll, with the magic of editing, mention that on some caption earlier. So you already know that these are actually 175mm, not 150, hence the interruption. So let's try again. We should have more joy now. So now we get our spanners, 11 and 13. 13 holds the female section. Difficult to show you what's going on here without being in the way, but 13 is on that bit and 11 on that bit. And you're going to find with this that as it tightens up, there'll be a few turns, or maybe one or two turns that feel a bit odd, and that's where the two surfaces, the male and female ends, are mating together basically, because there's a fresh surface of copper that's not going to be perfectly the same shape as the other. So they'll just, as you do these up, they'll be squeezing them together, hopefully making a nice airtight, fluid-tight brake seal, fluid seal. $13mm to hold the female side, 11 on the male. It's not happy. Ah, fail. I wonder if the new union isn't right. The old one looks okay. Ah dear, the new union is actually defected, so I'm just going to have to switch this out and come back. And once again, with the wonders of editing, 2 seconds later, got a new union. Not the sort of union that helps you get a better pump, a better pension. the sort of union that just doesn't strip threads. That brake line back into where it's meant to be, and make sure that where it's running isn't rubbing. A bit of manipulation, sorry about my head again. Sometimes I've got to get my head down there. It's not rubbing on the brake master cylinder or anything else. That plug pops on naturally because it's still a 306 reservoir. Connections are in place, lines are in place. These should be nice and tight now. No problems there. No clearance issues here. Clearance under the bottle, clearance to the master cylinder, comes around and collects with our two original unions that then disappear off. So let's fill up the reservoir now and bleed the brakes. Nice fresh bottle of brake fluid. Glug 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 glug. It's at this stage I thank you for watching. I watch what I'm doing. I'm not going to show you how to bleed your brakes, that's for a different video, for a different day. This is just a guide on how to upgrade your master cylinder. We've gone from a 23mm, which is the biggest standard 306 one, to a 25.4. And you do that when you upgrade your brake calipers to something bigger, basically. And it gives you a much better feel in the pedal, because you're trying to move more fluid, basically, into a bigger capacity of a cylinder at the other end. Please check out my other guides, please check out this project, the Lemon. Feel free to like it. Check out our Facebook page. I always appreciate likes there. We're nearly at 1,000 likes on Facebook, so that'd be quite cool. So thank you very much. I'm going to now bleed my brakes. Have some fun. Stay safe. Any questions, please ask.